What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi and my guy Brandon Cruz. Sheets is in Vegas, so we will not have him today. Rhodey has got family stuff, so we will not have him today. But we have to start off before we get into football, just about talking about Brandon here, who's been on quite a run over the last couple months, to say the least, and just took down the big golf tournaments for the week. Unbelievable, man. I told you before we got on, I couldn't be happier for anybody else, and just love to see it. Excited that you're firing out there and that it's hitting. That was just great to see. Congratulations. And talk a little bit about the lineup and how the night went.
Yeah, here, I'll bring it up and stuff, and everything. So let me find it really fast. I want to say that just straight up, I'm using Goldie's projections for nearly all the sports and stuff. If Sheets doesn't have projections up, I just use Goldie's and stuff. So whenever I do live shows, I go live for all the showdown stuff and everything. I walk through exactly like how I'm building, what I'm doing, and things like that. I know I don't do stuff, or I don't do videos for golf, but I play nearly everything and stuff. This is what Saber Sim, the Sims, the Ultimate Package. This is what it's telling me to play with Goldie's projections, with his ownerships and stuff. In terms of actually talking about the lineup and stuff, I don't know anything about golf, especially on
a talk about your part of it. That's all.
Especially a game like this. Like, I know who's Xander is, obviously, but these guys are in Japan. This is a no cut event. A lot of, in my opinion, what would be like no name golfers and stuff. So I didn't know 5 of these 6 golfers before yesterday, and oddly enough, I tied with another guy who knows me in the smaller contests and stuff. But I'm looking for this guy. I was anti-sweating this individual the entirety of the tournament, because if he was for whatever reason to take first from Xander or just score better than this individual, I would have been knocked out of having the number 1 lineup. So it was basically just an anti-sweat for the guy who finished second in that tournament.
Yeah.
I do want to say the week before, I mentioned Sheets and I had a really good week that week, and yet again I used Goldie's projection there, and I had I think a lineup finish 8th, and then another one finished like 18th or something. So Goldie's projections, at least for me, and I recently in golf have been phenomenal of projecting who's going to be scoring well, helping me build teams for that specifically. And yeah, I just got, first solo golf takedown. A month ago I finally had a UFC win, then I had WNBA wins, and now I have a solo golf win. So I'm outside of baseball, which I think I've won smaller ones. I think at this point I've won every sport in DFS.
Yeah, you've won some showdowns for basketball. I remember.
Yeah. I think I've solo won every sport now on DraftKings.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can't say that, and I've been playing a lot longer than you have, and because I don't play some of them. That's part of the reason. But even if I did, it's really hard to win these tournaments, and it's just freaking awesome to see. I love to see it, and just a little plug to Goldie's projections. He does a great job. It's so great for golf, and just if you're using it for baseball or football or whatever, like, make sure the injury reports, Goldie will update after the injury reports and things like that. Golf is, we get golfers scratched every now and then, so it can be a little bit tricky, but it's just one guy. You can manually change the one guy or whatever. If it's a little late, it's not going to change that guy's projection all that much. But I really think that Goldie's projections have been awesome. I hope I did put a link in for the membership page. Hope you guys will give us a look. I think we've got an awesome team. We've got all the Saber Sim stuff. We've got all of Goldie's projections, Sheets projections, all of obviously Cruz's content, mine, Rhodey's, but most importantly, and Sheets, obviously. But the one who's been taking down everything these days has been Brandon and Sheets to some extent. So hopefully it can continue today into football. And again, Brandon, just super happy for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, so how are we going to carry it over today? And we usually do these shows a little different. Brandon usually joins us for showdowns. We talk about a lot of different things. Today we're going to talk, regular. We're going to talk about like each position, sort of what we're finding exposure wise, talk about potential game stacks that we're interested in. And I guess before we get into all that, I'd ask you, is there anything that stands out to you specifically on this slate? Anything that projection wise, or why am I not getting this guy? Why am I getting so much of this guy? Anything that stands out to you today?
So this might be helpful for some people, or maybe it's going to be useless for others and stuff. But before, I got paid out this morning. I did not plan on playing the NFL slate. I was busy doing
Destiny.
NASCAR stuff, so I have one. I haven't looked at the slate. Two, I only build after inactives come out.
Yeah.
So three, I have no idea who's on the slate. I have no clue who's substituting for who's out, whatever. Right. So like, I'm more so just going to be talking through how I'm building for this slate, but I have no input that's going to be useful from a who do I like perspective.
Right. Okay. Well, no, that's fine. I just wanted to I wanted to ask what your take was on, just what you're getting to. I guess we'll get into by position. But I have thoughts on this slate and stuff. It was actually interesting with the golf too, because I actually just thought when I saw the finishing, because I didn't look at my DraftKings this morning. I just happened to have my golf page pulled up, the data golf.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that I there was 5 players. I used Goldie's projections. I put it, and there was 5 players I wanted 25% or more of. One of them was outside the top 10. The other 4 were all inside the top 10, including like low-owned Echeverria and
Yeah.
Kanaya, who shot 900 yesterday. And I actually thought, like, I was like, oh, I'm going to look back right when I clicked on my draft. I'm like, I'm going to look back and see that I won. No, I didn't. Then I check out our Discord and I see Brandon won everything. So.
Yeah. Just randomly, like 1 a.m. and like, boys, I got to sweat. We got 4 holes left. Like,
yeah, that's pretty awesome though. But I was proud of my takes, and it just goes to show you though, it's a funny game. And I broke even. I think I may have won like $50 or something. But like you can put your slant on, use the same projections, and still just not get it. Just sometimes it works out the right way, and we try and do the best we can to put ourselves in a good position. As Sheets always talks about, your portfolio of what you're doing that day and how it's going to give you the best opportunity for success. And that's the way that's the way I try to do things with the way that I build. We obviously all build different ways. I'm seriously considering changing to Brandon's way because it seems to be working so well. But that's what it is. But anyway, all right. Well, I guess I'll go first, just talking about some games that I think that obviously there's not like there's the Dallas Carolina, which I guess is sort of a standout game, but there's not these obvious standouts we get, right? Like with some of the slates, and honestly, it's been that way most of the year. Like for example, if the night game, if the Chiefs Detroit were on the main slate, we would have all of that exposure to that game. You know what I'm saying? Or any of the games tomorrow, the Bills in Atlanta, but we don't have that, where I have a lot of stacks rated very similar. You have the Dallas Carolina game, the Chargers especially, but both you could say both sides of the Chargers Miami. It's not easy run backs. New Orleans and New England should be a fast paced game. The Rams onslaught stack is going to be fairly popular and make some sense, although the weather's pretty nasty. Arizona, Indy, especially the Indy side. Arizona is a little bit fringy without Kyler, so I'm a little less interested there. Seattle, Jacksonville. But I'm actually interested a little bit in the San Francisco Tampa Bay game, and I'm very curious to see what happens with Cincinnati today. So I actually have a lot of exposure reserved for the later slate. It might even turn into a Green Bay hammer stack, who was not on my huge radar for this week. But those are the main ones for me, though: Dallas, Carolina, Chargers, and New England, New Orleans, and then maybe Seattle, Jacksonville are the ones that stand out for me. Are you getting stacks? Are you getting run backs? Are you getting just mostly quarterback 1 and nothing else, quarterback 2 and nothing else? What kind of stuff are you getting early on? Oh, you have running.
Well, I'm currently running stuff just to have an idea of where I'm going to be. I'm playing obviously the Millie and then the Wildcat as my primary focuses. The only note I had entering the year from just listening to stuff and everything is I wanted to, similar to kind of taking stances on my approach this year in different things. The one thing I just wanted to focus on, what I just thought about, this is the first main slate I'm actually talking about, because I hadn't been on any of these shows this year. The only thing that I do, or that I kind of lock, is quarterback +2.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only rule I run. I don't run backs just because some of the data that I was listening to, and yet again, this is from like preseason and before the season started, people just kind of diving back into like the last like 2 years of Millie winners and stuff like that. The For whatever reason, maybe it's the lack of production from offenses or whatever, but there wasn't a need for a run back in lineups as much as some people may have thought, or from what the data suggests or whatever. And this is more so from just listening to like Establish the Run, and other people talking about, just stuff before the season. Right?
Establish the Run does a great job.
Yeah. And so my only rule that I actually like wrote down, when I was in my phone is like, actually here I'll find it specifically of the things that I focus on, but it's just a quarterback with two people. I don't care if it's running backs or wide receivers or tight ends. Anytime I've played any main slate this year, it's always been quarterback plus two. So double stacking quarterback no matter what. I mean, that's pretty much my only thing of note that I like do. And so before I build, I always just go to SaberSim, the stack exposure, and I just make sure I just have QB plus two. And that I found that I end up having, yet again, I don't play the main slate a lot, but this year I've had significantly more success not losing as much money because I find that I do have more lineups cashing and fighting to do something by having that as like the base thing here.
So wait, but are you setting it to 100%, locking in quarterback?
Yeah, that's all I do because I'm not playing a
Wow.
lot of lineups. So like the Wildcat today. So I'm playing and like I'm not playing on FanDuel today,
16
but
lineup, something like that.
But I had been playing that 250 because you had like cash back or whatever. If you didn't cash, you got something back, right?
Yeah.
I typically like those. And so what I was doing is just quarterback plus 200% of my lineups. Like that. That's all I want. And like I said, I've found success, or at least my vision of success. And yet again, we'll kind of talk faster once enactments come out.
No. Take your time. Take your time.
But that's a thing that I've found success for. So like today I'm playing a 15 in the Wildcat. I'm gonna have 100% of QB plus two as the only rule I have.
So let me ask you something when it comes to late swap then, because I think this is really important for people. And one thing I go back and forth with just to say my side, because I think it's really important to talk through this. When I late swap, I will put slants on my projections being a little bit like I'll lower the projection on Christian McCaffrey today a little bit. Again, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let late swap do its thing, with the exception of taking a few stances that I like from the afternoon slate, let's say. So when late swapping in those situations, and I do think you must be late swapping for NFL, in my opinion. If you're late swapping that situation, are you still setting it to 2, or maybe then you just let it fly? Because especially a day like today where there's 7 games in the morning and 3 games in the afternoon. How do you treat that situation as far as late swap goes? And it's weird because we usually talk about showdown and stuff like that. So I'm just curious how it translates over to main.
Yeah, no, that's why I mentioned. I was like, oh, I haven't been on a main slate, so like this is the first time people are hearing me kind of talk about stuff. Whenever I late swap, I kind of just let whatever's gonna happen. I really don't want any input on late swap. I also late swap regardless. Because yet again, I don't know. I don't know ball, right?
Right.
So I don't have any like bias entering like, oh, this is a good lineup. I don't want to miss this lineup. I just late swap regardless.
It's not like we're talking about NASCAR or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just late swap regardless. When the morning games are entering the third quarter, or at the end of the third quarter, I just late swap regardless. And just let everything happen. Now I do notice, or I at least pay attention to what the stack exposures become, and I normally don't get anything crazy. Like it goes from QB plus 2 to QB plus 1. I still don't really like the run backs, just because some data was showing that I think you're giving up a little too much, or maybe not me, but just some people thought you potentially were giving up upside by chasing a run back and stuff. So I kind of usually remove run backs and stuff unless it's like, yet again, I'm not playing a lot of lineups, so I can go through and see what the lineup is. If it's like 2 studs, I don't know what it would be today, but like, let's just say, for example, I late swap, and originally I had Baker Mayfield plus 2, and then it late swaps and it's Baker Mayfield plus 1 plus whatever stud from San Francisco, then that's fine, right? But if it's like getting me a run back just for the sake of that, I typically don't like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a bold strategy for sure. But as I say that, I look at my exposures today, and 30% of my lineups are QB plus 2 with no run backs, and another 30% are QB plus 1 with no run backs at the moment. It might change as time goes. I'm okay with all different kinds of things. I've sort of talked about this at length. I do think that the QB plus 2, like that, those have been more, effective over the last years. Back in the day, people literally thought if you won without like a run back, people thought like you were an idiot.
Yeah.
It was like, when I was playing for the first 5 years that I played NFL, like, a while ago, people literally would treat you like you're an idiot if you didn't have a run back. They thought it was just absolutely awful. And back then we're all hand building. There's no contest sims, the data was hard to figure out. And of course, nobody was winning with other things because no one was playing them. It's like playing a non-5-man stack in baseball on a full slate. If no one's playing it, then they're never going to be at the top of the leaderboard because it's just not what anything's going to give you. So I like that's just a good way to get different. I like what you said about the late swap. I'm much more inclined to put my stamp on this, like these slates early, for me at least. Like, you do your QB plus 2. I do my using a combination of Goldie and Sheets' projections. I adjust my own personal thoughts, and then I min max my certain, whatever. I don't want 50% of the Raiders defense, for example. So I'm always going to cut that one down to 25 or less. But then I want to let late swap do its thing a little bit, and I'll put a little bit of a stamp on it, but not as much. And this is a question we get a lot in chat, so hopefully people are able to hear what we're saying, because I do think you want to let the sims do their thing, especially on a slate like today where most of the stuff is in the morning, and then you've got the afternoon smaller slate. I think you trust the sims in that situation. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I know you don't know what you're getting at. Usually the way we run this is we'll talk about like sort of where we're at right now. And yeah, we don't have the actives and actives. Also, SaberSim hasn't updated, and Goldie will update his projections and everything after the injury, probably around noon, 12:15 Eastern or so. But I did want to mention, like Arizona, like they announced that their third string running back is actually starting today. And there's nothing about that is reflective in SaberSim yet. And that was about an hour ago that they announced it. So I think they'll do it around, when the injury report.
Yeah, when everything comes through. Yeah.
Not that necessarily you want to play Zonovan night or Bam night or whatever. Just throwing that out there. Again, I haven't finished all my things. I did go through. I made all my notes, and then I try and put my stamp on everything. Again, you want to wait till the last projections come in, so you don't want to mess with it too much. So I'm still sort of waiting as well till when we get off, and then I go and hand build my big ones. That's usually my strategy. My way of dealing with it. And in my big ones, for what it's worth, when I hand build. Look, it's worked out for me really well over the years. I usually do build lineups with run backs on my hand builds. It's just the way that I've gotten used to doing it, and my hand builds have been better to me, other than certain situations, mostly over the past year since all the contest sims and everything came in, than some of my automatic builds. But again, we're talking about 5 to 10 lineups that I'm doing today. It'll be closer to 10 to 15. I just tend to do it. I shouldn't say I always do it, because I don't always, but I generally, that's the way I go. But today at quarterback, I mean, again, most important position in sports, least important position, usually on a DFS slate. It's just such an even, like we don't get those as many 40 games as much anymore, especially because the Lamar's, obviously Lamar's hurt right now, but Lamar, Josh Allen, those are the guys who can go out there and get these huge numbers for you. And we just don't have those guys in this slate. So you're trying to get, getting your 25 to 30 would be awesome. And there's a lot of different guys who weigh in for that. You can also pay down. There's a lot of different ways to go at quarterback today. I'll just go through what I've got right now. At the moment, it's a little bit more on the chalky side, which never bothers me at quarterback, because I don't have that many strong takes. The one take I have is I am surprised that no one is going to take a shot with Joe Flacco. Just a shot. Okay. We just saw this Green Bay defense put up 40 points on Dallas. Dallas put up 40 points on Green Bay. We talk about this elite pass rush, and it's a terrible offensive line. I get all the logic, but doesn't that mean he's going to just fling it up there a few times? I mean, he's willing to fling it. We know that. We've got a great receiving core with Higgins and Chase. Maybe even on the quick outs. I think Jamar Chase is like an incredible play. And I think Higgins is a really interesting play. And I actually led me to 10% of Joe Flacco today. So if Joe Flacco really remains, and again, I can always adjust that with that's a late swap game. This is afternoon. I'll probably bump my projection up to Joe Flacco, because I think it's a little bit low as it is. But I really like the idea of getting overweight that situation. So that's really my one difference maker. I'm pretty much with the chalk other than that at quarterback. Joe Flacco and Dak Prescott are the two that I'm well over the field on. as of right now. I know you don't know what you have, but do you have any thoughts on this, or just?
So I have my stuff ran, so I
Okay.
at least have an idea. So yet again, since I don't know anything about football, I typically build lineups and then see what is being built from there. I'm getting a lot of the cheaper quarterbacks.
Yep.
I don't at the moment, right? I only have let me bring this over so I can talk through stuff. I don't really have a lot of Baker Mayfield and Prescott. The highest exposure rates that I have, when I ran our stuff early or right now before inactives and everything, it's like Herbert, Young, Jones, Drake May. And so what that's telling me, is that, as you stated, we don't have really any elite quarterbacks on the slate. When we look at the most expensive ones we have, it's Lamar, who's been playing. Actually, he's not even out, or he's out. We have Baker Mayfield, Prescott, Stafford. Like, we don't have any quarterbacks that I think would blow the slate apart from a expensive perspective, right? So what this is telling me is that this is probably a slate to where we're paying up at either running back, most likely running back, trying to get 3 into our lineups and wide receiver and stuff. And so you mentioned Flacco and stuff. When I had that 4-4-4 ticket 2 weeks ago or whatever, I played Jake from the Bengals, and this entire season so far, it's been giving me a bunch of like Rattler and these cheaper quarterbacks and stuff. And I like the builds that I've had. I like the lineups that I've had. I love the ownership that I've ended up having on lineups once they're live. They just, for whatever reason, have like underperformed drastically under projections and stuff. So I actually really do like the Flacco idea at $4,000. I think that's pretty huge. I know the Bengals have been terrible. I mean, trust me, I've watched like literally all of their games.
Yeah.
And I've just watched my quarterback get annihilated behind the line of scrimmage. But I think Flacco is an actual step up. I think he's going to at least attempt to throw the ball and not just die behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I like that. But it seems to me that I would probably be leaning towards him and Bryce Young of all people right now.
Yeah, Bryce Young is going to be. It's the weird, rare Bryce Young chalky-ish day, and I really don't mind it. It's the thing that worries me about that Dallas game. I actually thought it would be even higher owned. I just think both teams are going to be able to run the ball on each other, which just slows the game down, which makes it harder for quarterbacks. Well, for everybody to hit their ceilings except for the running backs, really, to be honest. But then there's always the chance that the running defense is so bad that they break you break one on each side, and then all of a sudden the game turns into like the sped up game that it's projected to be. But I definitely like the idea. I have no issue with the Bryce Young, Drake May, obviously that chalk I don't mind either. Those are my highest owned right now, along with Trevor Lawrence. We'll move over to running back and talk a little bit about that. I have some takes. I really like. Okay, so I think there's a ton of great running backs today. And I think you can get different without getting like too different. So for me, that means way under on Christian McCaffrey. I've got like 7% of them. Again, late swap. I've got a lot of afternoon guys, so I can always swap. I hate running backs against Tampa Bay. I say this all the time. They've been it's going back forever. They're tough up the middle. Christian McCaffrey is not a typical running back. He plays wide, like he line up as a wide out. He'll get 7, 8, maybe 10 catches. So I'm not saying that like it's but the fact that he's the highest owned running back on the slate potentially, and he's the most expensive, and he's playing, or the second most expensive, and he's playing the defense that's literally geared to stop any running, especially anything up the middle. I just feel like I'd rather go other directions. I'd rather have the Javonte Williams chalk. I'd rather eat some of the Rico Dowdle revenge chalk, although something about it feels a little funny. I'd rather play Jonathan Taylor, who's the other chalky one, over McCaffrey. Kyron Williams, I'll be over the field on. I'll be under the field on Rashad White as of right now. Again, late swap may change things. Ashton Genty is the one I prefer between White and Genty. And I'm going down because there's a lot of them today. Josh Jacobs is the one where I actually must just be getting him in the flex because it's showing me as having 12%, but I've got 43%. Yeah, so he's my flex player in most of my lineups. Okay, because I was looking at my running back exposure. Josh Jacobs is my favorite running back. Just raw everything. I like him the most today. And I really want to get exposure to this Quinshon Judkins this rookie. I think he's the real deal for Cleveland. I don't believe in Pittsburgh's defense. I don't care how much Cleveland struggles with Gabriel or whatever. They're just going to run the ball more, and Judkins can break something. So those are sort of my running backs. I know there's a lot of names, but that's sort of how I have them, and basically in that order. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of running backs for a reason. I mean, we've seen a decrease in offensive production from the air this year and last year.
Absolutely.
So everything's absolutely moving back to needing a running back in the flex and stuff. Everybody that you mentioned was pretty much my exact exposure at the moment. One thing that I've really noticed over the last month and a half of playing the way that I've been playing is I'm not as concerned about the chalk as I used to. Obviously, when you're playing less lineups, that's drastically more important. But at this point in DFS, I don't really purposely go out of my way to either be overweight or underweight on the chalk. I just get what I get. I mean, it's their chalk plays for a reason, either projection or pricing or whatever. I do agree with you that the Dowell at 5,800 seems just like a bit weird. He's my highest exposure rate right now. Yet again, I just ran all this stuff live. He's projected for 22%, roughly, 22 to 24, 25, whatever. My exposure is 33 at the moment. I don't know why that is. I haven't looked through anything.
I have that too.
But that just feels weird.
Yeah.
I'm much more comfortable coming in at the field or like 22 and stuff. So if this was to be my final run, I would probably lower his exposure rates in my stuff to try and get more of Rachaad White, the Las Vegas running back.
Genty.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually really like Rachaad White just from a.
Yeah, he's the one I think who's going to steam.
Yeah.
And I get it. I like the play, but when you get guys in the 30%, that's the only reason I'm a little lower on him. I think it's a good play.
I would rather be overweight on Rachaad White than overweight on Dowell.
I think that's reasonable. I think it's harder to get overweight on White because I think he's going to end up being he is going to be the most popular, I think, along with McCaffrey and Taylor. Some combination of that, I think, is the way that people will do it. But again, things can change. Like people, late swap does change some things. I get the theories that, like the thing about Dowdle, I just I haven't seen Dallas be able to stop anybody. That it just makes me want to. I mean, the first week, I guess, against Philly, you could say they kind of stopped Barkley, but I just think that they've looked so like their defense. I feel like is very primed to give it up. So that's where I'm a little bit more okay. And San Francisco's giving it up to the running backs too. So I have no issue with the idea of playing White against him in the afternoon.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why has Taylor not been played as much in the last 5 weeks versus he's expected to be 30% owned this week? Obviously he's been doing great. I'm not saying why was he not being put in the lineups these last 5 weeks?
Very simple answer is projections. Okay. They've done this with Jonathan Taylor for years. When he's healthy and he's a go, he has like the biggest upside of it. He's behind McCaffrey because everybody is a little bit for upside, but he's right there. And actually, I'm going to mention one other guy that he's usually it's a conversation between the three of them is Derrick Henry, who's so cheap this year. And I by the way, I think the right thing if you're just playing mathematics, like if you're out there build, I think getting you're playing multiple lineups. Derrick Henry's supposed to be 4 or 5% owned. Get overweight on that. Just get overweight.
Get to 10.
It's going to be raining. Let's say he breaks an 80-yard or 70-yarder or whatever, and then he has the rest of like there's a path where he ends up with like 35 and smokes the position.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen a million times, and it usually feels like it's when on these slates where no one plays them.
Similar to how Nick Chubb used to be years ago in Cleveland.
Yes, exactly.
He wouldn't be owned at all, and he would go off from a DFS perspective. In every sport, there's players that when they're just not owned, you should just have exposure to. Derrick Henry is one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I really think that I think that Derrick. Yeah, I just think you got to take chances with some of these guys when the ownership slips too much in one and everybody goes one way. There's a totally logical reason to zag. Yeah, the Rams defense has been good. They've been good against the run. It doesn't mean it's going to continue forever. I mean, and also they're playing on the road, traveling game, and it's raining and wet and windy. They're going to try and run the ball. We know he's going to get 20 plus touches.
Mm-hmm.
He breaks one. He has his normal, 2-yard touchdown. You're already there.
And like he's like this is
6,200
positive regression. Like he cannot do any worse than what he's doing now.
Yeah, I'm talking myself into this even more than I
like
probably.
I love Henry as well. I'll probably at least have him in 10% of my stuff. Just
and even that, just getting well above the field. All right, let's talk some wide receiver. And again, my numbers, I'm looking at my SaberSim exposures, but some of these guys are in the flex too. So mostly it's running backs and tight ends, and my flex, we'll get into tight ends in a minute, but I'll just go through what I've got. Chris Olave, at some point, hopefully he gets in the end zone, but he's my highest owned receiver right now. Nakua, number 2, Tet McMillan, number 3, nothing special about those. Jacoby Myers above the field. Jackson Smith and Jigba will be a little bit above the field. Lad McConkey will be above the field. George Pickens is one I'm way above the field on. I actually think the projections are broken on SaberSim with him. I trust much more Goldie and Sheets' projection on him than I do SaberSim's. So I like getting to more Picken. I also raised the projection on Agbuka, who's expensive, so he's not going to be owned because he's similar price to Nakua. I think there's ways to play today where you can get both of them. I'm getting to a lot of this Trey Harris for the Chargers because we have no Quentin Johnston. Yeah, I don't love that. I'm okay with like a little bit because Herbert can spread it around, but I'm not thrilled with that. But then after that, I have him and Trey Tucker, Michael Pittman, all those guys in a similar range. And then I've, Jamar Chase in that same 15% range, which should be way above the field. Devontae Adams, I've got 10% of, which he's projected to be 1% owned. I'm looking. I think that's wrong too. I think this projection, I think it's a little low. DK Metcalf's another one you take shots on, but that's sort of my list in order of how I'm looking at receiver. What's showing up for you?
Yeah, my stuff right now is Levin Puka and Trey Harris. For what it's worth, the Trey Harris when I'm conceiving why, for whatever reason, I have 25% Trey Harris and stuff right now, which is in 45 lineups. I'm guessing that those are lineups that are paying up at quarterback and stuff because I'm, obviously the exposure rates for my running backs, I'm paying up for that. I understand wide receivers have a much higher ceiling than quarterbacks, but I would actually rather take the safety net of a cheaper quarterback versus the $3,000 wide receiver. Just as I'm like, my stream of consciousness of how I would look to make adjustments to this stuff. But Chris Olave, Pittman, Jacoby Myers, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams. I'm pretty much in the same lens as you are. I think for what it's worth, I do want to try and force in some Jalen Waddle, especially if they're actually going to attempt to pass, and especially if everybody's going towards the Charger side of this. I would probably want more of Waddle and even Achane, if like, very similar to Henry. If nobody's expected to play Achane, I probably want to be able to field on him as well. But I really don't see anything from the wide receiver outside of those guys that is like too crazy. My Pickens exposure right now is right with the field at 3%, so I probably want over that, but I don't really have anything else to add.
So I think Pickens is going to end up being like 15% owned, just for what it's worth. I actually am adjusting the thing on that myself because I'm not buying it. Like I just think this is one of those. And when these happen, I'm usually right. Like there's times you've done this long enough, you feel like, okay, this is what's really going to happen. You know what I mean? Because there's just no way. Like I don't know. Look at Goldie and Sheets' projections, and then look at SaberSim's, and it's just a completely different player.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the Goldie and Sheets' projections on that one. Also, SaberSim still has they reserve the right to change their projections. Still, the game has not started. For what it's worth, Jatavion Sanders, as we expected, inactive. Tutu Atwell is inactive for the Rams, which again, it's not a great day for stacking the passing game for the Rams. But that does sort of solidify even more of Nakua and Devontae Adams, if you will.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara is active. That was one that I was looking at. See, this is the of all these. Zay Flowers active, but he's going to be on a minutes thing. The one that stands out to me the most of all these inactives as they come in right here is actually for the Seahawks, because I think that, and he's their defensive back. It's Devin Witherspoon. I love this guy. I think he makes their secondary awesome. I know they had a bad week last week. Whatever, I don't care. Teams are going to have bad weeks. He's terrific. I think he's the best defensive player on Seattle's team. For me, that makes me feel much more comfortable with my Jag stacks. And I already was over the field on Hunter and Brian Thomas, but now I'm going to be significantly more over the field probably on those guys. I like those plays anyway as speculative, interesting, get different, if you want to call it that, plays. Hunter Long, also you could throw into the, is another guy you're going to be in the mix on. But I like that. I think that's a big boost for Hunter and Brian Thomas personally. So I'm going to actually bump their projection up a full point. It's a big difference when you lose your best corner, So I do think one of those receivers has a day there in Jacksonville. I'm much higher on that game now than I was. Usually it's not one defensive player that changes everything for me, but this is a big one.
Yeah, kind of similar to I like talking about guys who should be owned higher, as we've done here. I could be wrong. I don't remember what Thomas ended up doing on the evening game.
He had an okay game.
But he still hasn't gone off yet.
No,
right?
He hasn't yet.
Yeah. So the fact that he has yet to do that, so he's been well under his projection. Obviously they lost Strange. I'll probably try and make sure I have some Lawrence stacks in there, because I think that's probably a really good area to attack, especially him at 6,200 for the potential upside if he can do anything.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
But also, you mentioned the QB plus too. If you forced in some Jacksonville, you have two. You put him. The problem is they're kind of, the receivers are medium mid-level price. Yeah. But I don't mind the idea of both Thomas and what's his name together, Travis Hunter.
Do you think Etienne will be utilized in that?
So yes, I do, but I just think there's too many other running backs I like better. That's the best way to use it. The problem is, even watching on Monday, they'll let Tootin get a good amount of work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back up. It's just a little better matchup. Maybe I would go for it. I don't think it's a bad play. I just think that there's too many other plays. But with no Strange, and then with no Witherspoon on the other side, I do think it sort of says okay. And we saw Travis Hunter nearly have the breakout game. If actually Trevor Lawrence missed him in the end zone, that would have that would have got me the showdown. I would have won the 333. Again, it was with 18 seconds left, or no, it was 30 something seconds left, because it was right before they got down to the one. But he missed Hunter wide open in the end zone, and I was in 12th place with Hunter as a captain.
Yeah.
And Hunter was 1% owned as a captain. Yeah. So if he hits Hunter there, Hunter crosses everything, gets the best score of the night, and that would have been a fun ship. So maybe I'm trying to get money back, but either way, I like that spot for Jacksonville much better than I did all week. I knew Witherspoon was questionable. I didn't know for sure he'd be inactive. All right, we'll talk about tight ends. I think tight end is really strong this week. I think wide receiver is the weakest position, which is why everybody's going to play Nakua, and there's a lot of speculative plays. I think tight ends, you've got a lot of ways to go. I think I'm going to have a lot of tight ends in the flex, and I'm going to have a lot of running backs in the flex. I'll just go through Jake Ferguson, my highest owned tight end. Tyler Warren, I will probably be just a little beneath the field. And I love Tyler Warren. Anybody who listens to me regularly knows how much I love Tyler Warren. There's just, again, tons of running backs tons of tight ends that I like. The ones but I've got a lot that people aren't really playing. Darren Waller, I've got 11%. I played him last week also. People thought I was nuts. He went off again after going off on the showdown slate. Love Darren Waller. Love Jake Tonjes. I don't know why no one's playing this play. I think it's interesting against Tampa Bay here with no Kittle still for one more week. So again, also late swap ability. I like that play better than Michael Mayer, who's the cheap play. But again, getting to a little bit of Mayer, a little bit of Juwan Johnson. Here is the home run play. Okay, if you want to take a shot to win a tournament, especially like a millionaire tournament, and get a guy who's less than 0.25% owned, there's one really clear guy who you could take a shot on this week. And yeah, he didn't have any plays at tight end last week. It was all quarterback option, Wildcat stuff. His second week back, we know it always comes out of the blue. You know, I had him in my 44-44 when I was the only, like when I played that year and I was playing the Millionaire. And Taysom Hill put up 42 fantasy points, and I was the only player in the entire field who played him. I think Taysom Hill is the no ball, call it whatever you will, super sneaky, get creative play of the week. My bold take is that I'm not going to play like crazy amounts of them, but look, I'm going to get to some of this Taysom Hill. And I'm going to have like, he's going to, again, no one is going to play him. He's going to be point whatever percent owned. Get yourself if you're playing the Millionaire Maker and you're only playing a little limited number of lineups, nobody is going to do this. And Taysom Hill legitimately, depending on how he's used, depending on how, let's say he rushes for a touchdown on the first drive. You could end up getting him throwing, you could get him rushing, and it doesn't matter whether he plays tight end or not. The fact that Juwan Johnson is available, it doesn't matter because he's going to play. And he'll line up as running back, is my guess, as he gets more and more into the flow. It is a different play caller than they've had in the past, obviously with Kellen Moore. But Kellen Moore is an extremely creative coach, and they still ran him 6 times last week. Imagine if he had 6 targets last week. Taysom Hill would be a chalky this week.
Oh yeah.
Instead, he has 6 carries, and he doesn't get in the end zone, so no one's going to play him. Let's be the people who play a little bit of Taysom Hill. That's my bold take, I guess.
Yeah, especially with, as I said, I think being well over or under the field on chalk, I don't think is really needed. You just need to do like one play or one position, or not even one player per team to get different. Like I think that's great. Waller at like no ownership is great, especially since Hill went down. That's why I like Waddle and Waller, especially since Waller came back. He's been like, I mean, this is like the second coming of Darren Waller. It's crazy of how much they're actually throwing to him. I like him over Tyler Warren as well. Jake Ferguson is probably going to be my favorite tight end play. After that, I'm just going to use whatever is being given to me. I have like 32, or maybe not that many, but I have like, I don't know, 12, 13 tight ends being used. But Waller, Taysom Hill, Jake Ferguson would probably be those guys. And it's so, at least I know Taysom Hill. When you were talking in my head, I was like, is this guy going to bring up Taysom Hill? Is he even still on the Saints? Is he?
He just came back for his first game last week after the injury that hurt him last year. So, and look, they don't have anything to play for, but he's like a Saint. He's like the guy who's been there forever.
Yeah.
And again, you might get a quarterback. What if Rattler goes down? He might end up. Or any.
He could be the quarter.
He may be. He played quarterback 6 snaps last week.
Yeah.
So, okay. And that's also, again, I kind of liked the Rattler stacks earlier in the week, and I just talked to myself. I was like, nah, I could see Taysom Hill just vulturing if they do get too close.
Yeah.
So that's my wild card. My wild card play. Now, I don't think you need to get a huge amount of it. I'm not saying get like 50%. I'm saying like get 5, 6, 7, 8% maybe in your millionaire lineups. I'm not saying you have, like, I'm just saying out there. Yeah. Don't be surprised if it happens, and it usually seems to happen out of the blue. Even if he only gets like 10 snaps, if those are going to be 10 option plays as a quarterback, you're looking at chances for touchdowns probably on at least 2 of those. I think it's worth taking a shot. All right, let's move over and talk about some defenses. I think we've got pretty much all the information. I think the sites are just updating projections right now. What are you getting to defensively here, Brandon?
My highest exposure, which I don't want, so
going to be the Raiders.
Yeah, 29% Raiders, 21 Steelers, 14 Colts. I typically don't like being that high on defenses, specifically the highest owned defenses. That's the only input that I do usually go into, is I usually go well underweight whatever the highest owned defense is, just because the variance at this position is so intense. But those are my only thoughts.
Yeah.
What is going on in London? Why is this game 10-11?
This is what happens. You get an ugly weather game overseas. They always get the bad product. Although it's been a little better this year until today. It's 11-10, and like the Jets apparently, all the notifications I keep are talking about, they're having like the worst offensive game in history.
Yeah, like
they had 30 yards in the first half.
But yeah,
as a team.
Yeah, Fields has 34 passing yards and 23 rush yards. We're about to enter the fourth quarter. That's crazy.
That Denver defense is so good. Forget whatever happens in this game because it's just a weird. I actually just like don't even look at what teams do when they go overseas in terms of how I think about them. Just because it's such a weird experience, you know what I mean? And it's just like, all right, the time difference, and then you're playing in a soaking wet, bizarre weather with fans who don't know whether to cheer or not and don't know what's what. I don't know. The whole thing.
They're just happy to be there, man.
Yeah, exactly. I don't blame them. I would, if I was out there, I would go to any game out there. They seem to enjoy it. So so I'm waiting for things up there. I'm just gonna take a quick look and see where Zonovan Knight got as far as his projection. I know they must have updated it. Yeah, they did. They didn't update it. They didn't make him very high. I don't like that play for what it's worth. I like this Indy defense. The joke I was making on the Roto Grinders show this morning, I was just sort of watching and typing in, and everybody sort of knows me from the old days. But I was talking about like, and me and Cheats joked about it earlier, like, couldn't you play the craziest if like one of my lineups, I might just hand do this, and there's no logic. It's just kind of a fun throwaway of $20. But how have we ever seen two guys face off against each other after back-to-back games where they both dropped the ball at the 1 yard line, or while they were going in wide open, untouched for the end zone? So could you? I actually thought they were going to start DeMercado this week. I mean, after finding a coach and everything, that's the move they should have done, in my opinion. But they're starting Zonovan Knight. I'm not going to do it. But Zonovan, I'm not going to do Zonovan Knight. I was just throwing it out there that DeMercado and AD Mitchell, if they both score touchdowns, or maybe you just bet maybe I just bet that on a parlay. These two score touchdowns today, the two guys who fumbled against each other. I think that's got to be like 100 to 1, right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
And it's not impossible because DeMercado is going to get used. He knows the offense, and they're going to need guys who know the offense without Kyler Murray. So. And on the other side, AD Mitchell's like a home run threat. I could see it happening. Just if they both score, and I'm going to have to call my friend when we get out of here because I can't bet legally in California. I'm going to have to tell him, make this bet for me. Although I would never do that. Anybody out there who works for the IRS. Just because it gets too confusing. All right. So we talked about this stuff. We got a little bit of a smaller crew than usual. I'm going to rerun my stuff, and I will post for every site member in Discord exactly what I'm doing. And what I'm at for each slate I'm playing. We got the afternoon slate. We got the showdown, one of the best showdown games we could hope for, I think. It's been an awesome showdown game so far, right? Like, we got some really good matchups.
Yeah, tonight's going to be really good.
Tonight's a good one. And tomorrow we got 2 games. And we got 2 baseball games tomorrow, including my Dodgers. And there's 2 football games. It's going to be a wild, great Monday night.
Yeah, I can join you for that too because I'll be playing those.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And then a 2-game baseball. I love the baseball slates. I think that they're so fun in the playoffs. Trying to find the guys who are not going to get pinch hit for, because like everybody pinch hits like half their guys these days. All right, Brandon, anything else? I know I sort of talked a lot for the last little bit. Anything else you want to add before we end up getting on out of here?
No, not at all. I mean, you know what you're talking about. I'm adding nothing of value in that sense.
No, it's hugely valuable for people to understand that how you're running things.
Yeah, I just focus more on building. But for me, Waddle, HN, Henry, Hill, Pickens, seem to be the guys that I want to make sure I have some exposure to.
Yeah. Throw in. I'll throw
and the Bengals wide receiver with Flacco and all those guys.
I like it. Yeah, Malik Washington. That's the other one. I'm going to make Malik Washington one of the Malik Washington or another totally different positions. But as far as cheap plays go, one of Malik Washington or Taysom Hill is my really get weird with it play of the week. Also, I don't know why Malik Washington is like not getting why is his projection lower than the third receiver for the Chargers exactly? I don't really understand it. He's their number 2 receiver. They're going to throw him the ball by the line of scrimmage. He's going to have 6 catches no matter what, probably. So anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. Huge congratulations again. Love to see it. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going through today, through tomorrow, and hopefully it'll be one of those weekends to remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, it already is. I could totally mess up today and still be wildly good. But
but let's not though. Let's
add
into it.
Yeah, let's see what we can do.
Just because you won doesn't mean you have to stop winning.
So best luck to you. Thanks for everybody watching and stuff. I am very happy to have this many people here watching our shows. Head to head with so many people. We have an hour left. Personally, for me, I usually build with about 45 minutes left before slate just so everything ends up being refreshed, not only on Goldie's end, but just everything across the industry and stuff. So that's usually what I do. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I think that makes solid sense. Same basically similar to me. Brody's asking. Brandon won the golf. He actually check this out, Brody. He won the golf lottery and he won the super lottery. They chopped the super lottery the $5.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Yeah, same line. That I will say that's one thing that people don't. They actually advise not doing. My entire life for DFS, I really try and just play the same lineups in contests. Like so some people might argue that. I know there's an option in SaberSim to avoid duplications when you run sims. I don't do that. If there's a good lineup, I want that lineup in as many contests as possible.
Yeah,
that's kind of my last thought there.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused by something that just happened as we get out of here. I wanted to throw this. I don't understand what just happened. Why is Joe Flacco out? Why was his projection removed? Did I miss something? What is happening here, guys? Somebody fill me in what I missed, because I don't see any note on this. I don't see this anywhere. This is one that I'd like to. I mean, because this game is in the afternoon, but it's going to affect what I do in the morning quite a bit. So I'm going to take a quick look and just take a see what I can find. I know this is kind of boring, but I am going to do it because I think it's important. Anybody have it with the Flacco?
I don't see anything on Twitter.
Look at SaberSim though. They took him out. They unprojected him. No quarterback. Joe Flacco latest. He's covering Joe Flacco passing. What happened?
I'm gonna assume that's just potentially stuff updating. I will say, I don't know if this is that, but typically whenever like when I'm waiting for stuff to be refreshed, I close completely out of SaberSim and then just reopen it in another browser. It could be a loading or a cache issue. If for whatever reason stuff was updated and he got moved to 0 for a short moment.
Okay, yeah, good point. I'll give it a few minutes, but anybody who's a site member or anything, well, I'll let you know in the Discord if I find anything out about that one. All right, Brandon. Good luck. Congrats again, man. Great job, and hopefully we can be talking about how you won all the money again tomorrow.
Yeah, best of luck, everybody.